have wondered what makes the consumer grab a packaging or a product from the shelf, what catches their attention, and why they decide to use one brand instead of the other or the competition. So I've been wondering the same thing since the beginning of my career, and I create like a presentation about this, about the consumer behavior, and I call it or coined the name neuropackaging, which is the science behind packaging and consumer behavior. So let's dive in. I'm gonna give you some of my background first. I have been working in the past with global and legacy brands. I was the packaging director in a big agency. I'm from Argentina. And then for the last few years, I researching a lot on consumer behavior, how our brain work, and basically how we behave and why some of the products or some items attract us. So I read more than 100 hours, so there's a lot of information over there. And what I try to do is bridge that gap between the scientific world and the scientific research, quite often very complex, and the branding and packaging and the CPG world. So let's try to find out first how our brain works. This is a summary, very simple way. Sorry if any neuroscientist or doctor over there, but this is just a summary of how our brain works. Basically, it manages our body energy to keep us alive and pass our genes. It optimizes energy by predicting using our past experience. And to do this, it generates shortcuts, also known as mental shortcuts. I think you maybe are familiar with this term. And we should have in mind that our brains are constantly processing information from the world around us, looking for familiar patterns and making predictions about what will happen next. So basically, it manages our body budget, search for familiar patterns, also known as pattern seeking machine, and it's constantly optimizing energy. This is very important to understand and to have in mind. So we're gonna understand the next scenes I'm gonna show you later. And with these mental shortcuts, when the consumer is in front on an aisle or on a shelf, when he or she sees a pack of coffee, for example, using this example, our brain makes this shortcut, this mental shortcut with the product itself, in this case, the coffee beans or the coffee, and it compares with the previous experiences we have, for example, with other brands, and compare the value of this, not the price, it's the value of the product with the other brands, and of course, with the cues that you see, for example, in this case, the coffee cup, with the morning coffee cup, it could be with a coffee break in our work, on the best, the first thing we drink when we wake up. And the other cues, in this case, for example, the color, the red color, it connects with a teapot and the heat and the fire can connect with something that hit us like a hat. So this is also known as semantic network. So each element of the packaging spread other concepts and other information. also known as spreading or active information. We as humans rely on our visual capabilities the most. 1/3 of the human brain's cortex is dedicated exclusively to vision. So let's dive in the purchase moment. In the first 30 minutes, an average consumer has to deal with more than 20,000 packaging. So if you remember what I told you before about the energy saving mode, there's a lot of information that we have to handle. So if we see how we make the decisions, there's two processes. This is very famous, the system 1 and system 2. I don't know if you are familiar with, but one process is quick, it's fast, automatic, intuitive, and the other one is slow, controlled, and analytical. And we use, for example, the system 1 process with goods and well, that's what's called fast moving goods, and the other one when we have to decide about insurance, like big ticket items, a car, a loan. So we're gonna focus on the first one, system 1, because our products are more related with this type of decision. It's also known as the law of least mental effort. So there's another theory about the 5-second rule, that the consumer only spend 5 or less seconds deciding about the product or the purchase. And I think it's more about the mental effort than the time. If you stand on a grocery store and see the consumers, you're gonna see that spend, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 seconds, but it, for me, in my opinion, is the mental effort we do. It's not the time. So what does it make to have the product inside the basket or the shopping cart? This is called the decision-making model, that it has 3 stages. One is the attention and the perception. The second one is the recognition, meaning, and the decision rules. I'm going to dive into these 3 stages. The first one is the attention. If we don't see it, it doesn't get into the brain. So basically, or literally, there's no processing to do. So the attention gets also two routes. One is endogenous attention and exogenous. The endogenous attention is when we do a list and we go straight to the item that we have on the list. That's our attention. We have a goal to do, and the exogenous attention is something that cuts our attention from the outside world. Something that could be a different color or different size or different shape in the case of the packaging. So some examples in the real world could be the Nate's organic honey. They use the color to be distinctive, or the bows on the paper. There's another effect called haptic imagery. When we see this type of embossed papers, our brains simulate that we can touch them. So this is the name that they use, haptic. We could challenge the category itself, like Liquid Death did with the water category, or in this case, a brand called Good Shit Cola from the soda category. It's a New Zealand brand. And of course, the shape, the structure of the packaging. I know if I show you this image, you can tell me in a second which brand it is from this type of packaging. And then when we got their attention, then it's the meaning of the packaging. We just get the attention with a different color, different shape, different size. So I'm going to show you an example from this case, this margarine called Good Luck margarine. Back to the 40s, the margarine was perceived as a, I don't know, cheaper option. It was not much popular. So they commissioned to a marketer called Louis Cheskin to change this perception. And what he did is try to test a theory about he called the sensation transference. And he made different luncheons with housewife, and he dyed the classic margarine with yellow color. He changed the color of the margarine because he thought that the problem was the real perception, not the real flavor. So he changed the color. He dyed to yellow, and none of the participants realized that it was a different product. So he realized he decided to change not only the color of the margarine itself, but also the name and the type of packaging. He used a crown because he knew that the crown conveyed like something more premium. He used a golden foil. He changed everything, and of course the sales went up. The size. This is an amazing experiment, lovely study about how we perceive the height of a bottle. So they did a test, they did a study with different participants, and what they found is that when a bottle is taller, we perceive that it has more, in this case, liquid. So they found that when the packaging is taller, the participants consume more, but they feel more satisfied with the shorter one. And back in 2013, Heineken changed their bottle. They elongate their neck. The same quantity, but just different bottle, higher bottle. And of course, the sales went up. So shapes is another cue that is very important for the perception of the flavors. Rounded shapes, in different studies found that rounded shapes we taste sweet than the angular shapes that we associate or we link out angular with sour or bitter flavors. In this study, they test two different cups, one with this rounded texture and one with this angular texture, and they tested with hot coffee and hot chocolate, and the participants, the results were amazing. The participants felt the sweeter coffee with the rounded texture. These are the images from the study. So we connect the sour and bitter texture with something that is poison, and poison with something that is sharp. So that is the connection that our brains does. That's why I try to explain at the beginning about our mental shortcuts and this unconscious connection that our brain does. And of course, the surface. There's a lovely study they did with 6 experiments. They found that when chips were on in a matte surface, in a matte packaging, the participants ate more because they perceive it as healthier. So they ate more chips when it was on a matte packaging than the glossy one. And that's why we associate like the greasiness or the shiny with something more with the grease. And the final stage is the decision rules or the values. There's another experiment that they did with the brain scan. They show the participants different brands. They had 4 seconds to decide, and they could watch, like in fMRI, in brain scanner, the section of the brain when they were exposed to the product or the brands. The section of the brain that late was the prefrontal cortex, that it's associated or linked with the good feelings when we feel good. But when they show the price, another part of the brain trigger. In this case, was the insula. It's connected with pain. So they realized that the decision or the purchase value is how much reward we feel and how much pain. So if the reward is stronger than the pain, we make the purchase. And this pain could be the price, of course, but we have we should realize that could be the placement of the product on the store, and also the appearance. I saw there a lot of products that when you see it on the store, it's like, I don't know, don't make you feel like you want to buy them. And of course, the amount of information. We have to be aware that if we include a lot of information on the front of the packaging, we could have, let's call the cognitive overload, and we drop the purchase. So this is very important also. So how do we apply this knowledge to our everyday work? I'm going to use the Ruani showcase to showcase this process. Basically, the product was a brownie made from a pastry chef, a healthy dessert option with functional ingredients, extremely delicious taste. Consumer looking for a gluten-free, allergy-free dessert option, health conscious, yes, open to novel product. And the positioning, flavorful, fun brand with a healthy twist, captivating consumer. That's the summary of the. So we decided to show the chocolate in this way to convey that something is from a chef. So every cue and every element of the packaging, there's a reason why behind it. We also show the product in this way to convey that something lightning. And we found a study that says that when we place the products on the left, it's perceived as lighter than when we place it on the right side. Then the description is very important. The scripting, we found another study when they found that when you use like a more descriptive menu, it the consumer perceive as more tasty the product. So we change the description, and of course we should convey that it's a healthy product, but we change the hierarchy. So the first one, the first thing when you see the product is the product itself. It's brownie, the chocolate, and in the second hierarchy, the healthy items. We send this product to the other 3 flavors, and that was the final result. 1790 Coffee, another great case study we got. And each element is connected with something related to the coffee. The typography we use, the icon, and of course we wanted to convey that it's a Mexican product, but not in an obvious way. So we try to include some cues from the Mexican culture, but in a subtle way. And this was the final result. And like Elena mentioned, we also work with a lot of brands from this is family. So to finish and to wrap it up, the 5 takeaways for you guys. Just keep in mind that our brain is always in energy saving mode. Try to be clear is better than clever, so keep it simple. Avoid overwhelming with too much information to prevent cognitive overload. Be aware that every packaging detail, like shape, colors, copy, textures, impact sales. And remember, most purchasing decisions are on autopilot mode. So don't expect rational answer from the audience. Extract insights laterally. Don't ask what do you think, or would you like, would you purchase, would you buy it, or because yeah, you can have like little data from that, but have in mind that our decisions are made from an unconscious level. So that's are my takeaways. So thank you for your time, guys. You can reach me. You can scan the QR code and find me in different social.
Is it cool people ask questions?
Yeah, sure.
Any questions?
Let me. I don't know if you did.
Oh, we already have a question. Yeah, if anyone wants to raise their hand and ask Fernando a question, we will start a queue. I see Chelsea has raised her hand.
Hi, sorry, I don't know if you can see me. I'm at the kitchen. Can you guys hear me also, or no?
I can't hear her.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I kind of, I thought that was a good point about how much information is too much information. For us, we have kind of a lot of questions to answer. So at some point, is it like go to the website to get more information? Like to put that on your packaging? Is that something that you can do? I've seen people do that, but is that helpful? That's my kind of question.
You mean to evaluate if your packaging has too much information?
Yes, is an alternative, a good alternative to that, telling people to go to the website, because you're making the consumer do a little bit more work, but I'm wondering what your opinion is on that.
Yeah, first I should, I don't know, see, which is your product?
Needing to put too much information. People have a lot of questions. I have vegan meats, so people want to know what it's made out of. Is it non-GMO? Does it have soy? You know, all those sort of things. So a lot of that stuff I try to put on the packaging, but at some point, like it's kind of like put it all on the packaging. People are not going to read all that in a short amount of time, but it's also like I could send them elsewhere for additional information. So.
Yeah, but you can split the information between the front of the packaging and the back label. So if you ask me, I would add all that info on the back label to try to keep it simple on the front. Just try to understand what your type of consumer is looking for, what it catches their attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because people who are vegans are usually readers, so I guess it's good that we have it on there. Okay, they usually read ingredients.
Yeah, of course, but it should be very clear what type of product you're selling. So, what is the product you're selling? Of course, your brand and the flavor of the product. If you got different flavors, I don't know. And then all the info about how you prepare your ingredients, or I don't know, the origin could be on the back label. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think we're pretty much there, but you know, if more information comes up, we have other ways to. I think I answered all the questions on the packaging that typically come up, but we get some kind of common, like extra long answer questions. So I'm just wondering, like, just wait until you get more information, or maybe see kind of what comes up to see if we might need to add more information on the next iteration of the packaging. But yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Who else has questions? All right.
Let me mute.
Sorry. Oh. Fernando and I are in the same room. So, who else has got questions? Please raise your hand. Jolie, Rhett.
Yes. Thank you, Fernando. So I have a vegan gelato product, or plant-based gelato. My question is, and I saw when you had the difference in shapes between sweet and I think it was spicy. My question is the balance between playfulness and sophistication, meaning if you have a brand that can kind of have some level of comedic value, or just be playful with the end user, versus keeping it sophisticated because the flavor profiles are kind of sophisticated. Like, how do you decide, you know, how to be kind of gimmicky, so to speak, or I would say playful, versus keeping something that feels like more higher end, and not blurring the lines between what might, to me, seem like two different consumer price points, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it depends on your competitors. I don't know who the competitors are, but yeah, and the positioning on the market. So yeah, there are different, I don't like consumer for a premium product than fun profile product, but I think if you ask me, it depends on the competitors and the positioning you want to have or you would like to have on the market. So both could work. For example, if you see the Ruani case, it's more fun than premium, but we try to keep some premium elements, like the way we show the chocolate and you know what I mean, something clean. But maybe you can find a balance between something premium and something fun, and try always be distinctive and don't don't I don't know, maybe be confused, or the consumer could confuse your product with the other brands. So that's very important.
Okay.
It's,
I guess
it's
the example for me would be like Ben and Jerry's versus Talenti.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, both brands are working, so yeah, there's no right answer, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, you could have a fun profile or more premium profile, so both brands could work. And for example, if you see a Liquid Death compared to Evian or other brands, so both brands are working on the market. Of course, Evian has more market share; it's a bigger brand. But yeah, I think there's no right answer about the profile. You have to do it right. I think that's the answer. If you're gonna have like a premium profile, you have to do it right with a good design. You have to be clear about your product, about your distinctive offer, and all the stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Hi, Toby. You're on mute.
Hi. Hello. Yes. Um, my question, I just want to ask like a layman way of asking a question, but about my product. Um, so I have how can one differentiate with the packaging? For example, I have the hibiscus drink, and I had the initial one, so we're using the color red.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have another flavor which is different. The first one uses mainly pineapple. The second one uses mainly watermelon. How do I differentiate in terms of what else can I use to differentiate the packaging besides color? I don't know if I'm asking the question the proper way.
No, no,
But the
I got
hibiscus
you.
itself is red. Yeah. So like, how can I differentiate those two products? The packaging of the two products, but still let them know it's within the same line of products. They're both hibiscus drinks, but just different fruits. But then how do I differentiate, but then yet make them kind of.
Are you showing the ingredients on the front of the packaging? On the front label?
Yes. So the initial the first one, which has the pineapple, I have like a line that says, hibiscus, pineapple, lemon, ginger. And so that's on that first packaging. So trying to work on the second packaging, like do I do the same thing for the second one? But then the first packaging is red, kind of has red, and it has the sorrel in the background. But then the watermelon is red. So like trying to figure that out.
So let me see if I understood your question. You don't know if you should have like a brand color and then add other color to the design, or you would like to use one different color for each flavor. What it's that's your question. I think I lost you, Toby. You are on mute. Oh, we lost Toby.
Toby.
Yes.
Toby, can you hear us?
So the front, yeah, now I can hear you. I couldn't hear anyone. Yes, now I can hear you. So the first one is hibiscus pineapple.
It's red.
It's red.
Yeah.
And then the second one is hibiscus watermelon. Watermelon is red. Like, so like how can I differentiate that packaging?
Ah, I know what you mean. I see.
in terms of colors.
Do you have a brand color, or you don't? For example, do you have a website? Lost it again.
Toby.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. It's breaking.
Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Do I have a prototype?
No, if you got brand color.
The line is breaking. Can you put the question in the chat, please?
I got you.
Now I can hear you. It's going off and on.
Okay. So do you have a brand color? You have a color for your brand?
Oh, brand color. The brand color is green and yellow.
Ah, it's green and yellow. And you
Brand
have,
color is green and yellow.
and you also have green and yellow on the packaging, along with the red.
Yes. Yes, it's green and yellow with white. It's got white in it, but basically green and yellow.
Mm.
Yes.
And have you looked to other brands with that flavor? I
So
mean,
the-
research the
the-
market.
So what we did for the initial one, the first one, was just to have the logo like just a tiny circle
Mhm.
at the display. It's just like a tiny circle with because we wanted to keep the brand colors of the logo, so at least when people see other products, they can recognize it's still the same product. It's still the same company. So we did that, but the packaging was basically red.
Okay. I'm at your website, but yeah, I should look at more detail. Yeah.
Okay. Can I reach out to you later?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Okay.
I think Caroline.
Is there a contact email?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
you can scan. Can you scan the QR code?
I'm using my phone now
Oh,
for
yeah.
the meeting.
Hey, Toby, I'll email you his email. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you, Lena.
Hi, Caroline. You are on mute.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Muy bien, gracias. Thank you so much for this presentation. It was awesome. I love psychology and
Thanks.
like learns also about the colors, like different coloring. But I was wondering if like shades are also like, let's say green, for instance, if we take green, like have you found like different shades work better for that color, or do they evoke different emotions, or is it like just kind of the whole spectrum of that color?
No, it really depends on the product, but yeah, it really depends. But if you ask me, the best thing, the best way to differentiate the flavors, it's with really different colors, not just shades.
Okay.
So
And one,
to be very clear for the consumer to understand that he or she is taking a different flavor and
okay.
not get
Sure.
confused.
One last thing was just like, also, do you find that it's better to have like a package with a photo versus a window?
Yeah. It also depends on the product. For example, for pasta, we usually use the window more on the top or on the middle of the packaging, because at the bottom you got the all the crunchy or the you know what I mean?
Flat ones, yeah.
Yeah. I think both option works, but
Okay,
if you gonna include a photo, it's better that you have a good quality photo. You know what I mean?
sure.
So
Yeah.
it could backfire or backlash if you got an appetizing photo on the front of your packaging. So
Thank you.
yeah. I can see if there are any other.
Anybody else? Doesn't have any questions? I don't believe it. Lies. Now you guys got questions. No questions? Wow. Okay. Not one other person has a question. Chantel, I knew it.
I don't actually, I mean, I have a lot of questions, but I'm gonna get together with Fernando really soon. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
save most of those for when we speak next. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about the bottle shapes. I know you were talking about the size of the bottle. Is there like a particular bottle size or shape that is like the most impulsive for customers to buy, if that makes sense?
Mhm.
You know, you see such a wide range of shapes and sizes. Is there like a size or like an ounce size that is the most like impulsive for customers to buy? Like, have you noticed anything with that? I don't know if I'm asking it the right way, but
No, I know what you mean, but
Yeah.
I don't have any data about that or
Mhm.
research or study done about that. But I know that, like I mentioned before, like we use mental shortcut. So if you use, for example, a beer bottle for a soda, it's gonna make,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there are particular bottle shapes that we link or connect with a particular product. So that's very important to have in mind.
I know you mentioned before, and I think our previous conversation about the shape of the bottle, like
Mhm.
customers perceiving, I think you said square bottles as like bitter
Beer,
and the round ones.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's accurate. Yes, yeah. I thought that was very interesting. It's something I didn't notice until you said it. And I was like, oh, I do think when I see a square bottle, I think it's something healthy over something that is gonna like really, really taste good
Right.
most of the time. Most
Yeah.
of the time. Yeah. But thank you. That's all.
No, thank you, Chantel. Thank you.
Caroline, you got another question? 1.93.
Yeah. I just thought there. So when we were talking about shapes and sizes, when we brought our boxes out, some vendors were like, no, we would prefer the clear packaging so you can see the cookie, maybe more homemade style, I guess. But for all the larger retailers, they want it like boxed because it's easy for the shelves and whatever stacking. One thing I found when we're selling directly at like particularly like events and Irish festivals, a lot of folks think that our shortbreads are the mix, you know, and I think maybe that's the association with like if you get Irish shortbread or Scottish shortbread or scones, it's usually like a mix. I mean, sometimes it is. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Like,
They thought that your product was not the
actual cookie, they thought it was like the ingredients to make the cookie, like
Ah.
baking pack.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do they thought about that? What do they thought that?
They'll ask, they'll say, oh, is this like the mix? Is this the mix? We're like, no, it's actual cookies. And then we have to open the box to show them. So
Yeah, maybe the window could help. Or
yeah,
avoid
that's
that.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
We haven't had a problem in stores, I think. It's just literally like with the Irish American community.
Oh,
I
right.
think, yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I would try to move the packaging to a window version.
Yeah. To try it at least.
Yeah, at least to try it,
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Cool, we've got 8-ish minutes. Anybody else have any things they want to ask the expert, Fernando? Toby,
So-
is your computer working?
Yeah, still using my phone. Fernanda, I wanted to ask, have you studied or, observed instances where, like, even though the study or the, research by, say, for example, taller, just like she mentioned, square bottles associated with bitter and stuff like that, whereby the company or the product has been able to change that narrative, where, even though I don't know if I'm putting this right. For example, if, taller bottles associated with more in it, normally people would buy more of that, but then you have a company who does the opposite, but still is able to, get past that narrative. Are there instances like that?
Yeah, definitely. You have the Pepsi challenge. Pepsi challenge, I think, is the best case that shows that. And the blind test with both Pepsi and Coke, always Pepsi performs better than Coke. But when they show the brands, the perception drastically changed. So yeah, the brand influence has a huge value on the perception.
Okay.
So yeah, it's very important brand. I think the blind tests are the best example regarding that.
But then how does it go for sales? Because ultimately the bottom line would be what facilitates the most sales. So does it make sense sometimes to go against like the conventional rule or study if it can bring about the sale? If one can market enough to still bring the sale in, or?
Well, I don't know.
So I don't think I understood what you're saying. Can you rephrase?
So, for example, if the conventional thing, like we're talking about, even for packaging, like, the color should reflect, the what is in the package. But then the company decides to not do that and go like against that general rule, but is able to perhaps, market it enough to still have the sales. That's why I was asking, have there been instances whereby there have been successes like that? And is it worth sometimes following that path?
Yeah, but it depends on the size of the brand. So, for example, Oreo could use the blue, and it's a chocolate cookie, and it's a huge brand. So I think it depends on the size of the brand. For smaller brands, I recommend to be clear about the flavor and the ingredients and all the stuff. So I think that's a license that the global and big brands can use. Did that
Okay.
make sense?
Yes, I get you. Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Cool. Well, if there are no more questions, then we will end this awesome webinar. I just want to thank Fernando so much for taking the time and answering all of our questions and giving us a really interesting presentation on, branding and packaging is iterative. It's forever evolving. You're forever going to be updating it. So, really understanding how customers think is really crucial here. So again, thank you so much to Fernando, and thank you all for participating. This will also be up on the knowledge base in the next 2 days if you want to rewatch it. So thank you guys.
Bye. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.